the whole thing was shadowing us, right behind us, right on the side of us. You could kind of see the thing moving through the woods.
All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, and the whole night, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, October 2nd, 2022. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, along with, well, you know the man downstairs right there, Mr. Chris Bennett.
Good to see you, my friend. How's
Good, sir.
going in New York?
Everything is going fine. And just so everybody knows and everybody can see that we are joined by our guest tonight, Mr. Jay Bachochin. There he is.
Look, that's like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cool. Hey guys, how you doing?
Haven't quite got Alice yet. We're doing wonderful. And so let's do our roll call real fast. And then we'll get into it. So we want to say hi to all our folks in Lance Windsor, who was the first one in the room. Turn the light on for everybody else. Chris Tipton. Hello, Chris.
Chris.
The Scottish Wild Man says, get the kettle on.
Hello,
Matt from Central Florida, Bigfoot. Hello. Lester Taylor. Happy belated birthday, Lester. Lester Taylor's joining us.
Birthday.
Hey, we got Joe from Western New York, Bigfoot here. Joe. Sandra Piper. Good to see you. Angel Nolan. Hello. Jen, of course, Sherry, the missus, she's in the house.
Hi, Sherry.
I think we said Sandra Piper's in the house. Going down the list, because everybody's talking, which is a good thing. I know Mick is out there, our good friend Mick.
Mick is driving.
Don Fuller and Ammon Chris is in the house.
Ammon Chris.
I know My Eyes is out there. I don't know what. This one's like YouTube user.
Okay.
Pretty generic.
Welcome.
Didn't sign in, but saying hello. Hello. Don Fuller, of course. Low Rider's in the house tonight. And Joe, we're glad to see you're back too. You're feeling better. And we have DM Zabo in the house.
Little Kilroy. That's new. Welcome.
And YouTube user says, hello, Jay.
Well, hello, YouTube user.
Tim Halloran's in the house, author of
Tim.
Bigfoot Influencers.
Good to see
Hello.
ya.
We're going to be having him on very shortly. I got to get with him to get a date tied up with him. And, of course, Grasshopper's in the house.
Grasshopper. Good to see you, man.
Uncle Bones.
Bones, too, yeah.
Lockbeard. There he is. Lockbeard's in the house, as always. We got Nikki over at Hairy Man Hoaxes and Hoodwinks.
Nikki, good to see you.
Little Kilroy is here.
I love these names.
That is awesome. David Voigt is here. Hello.
Good to see you, Dave.
Howdy.
Brent from the Tall Ones is here. Brent, good to see you, brother. And so everybody is in. And of course, Aaron is in the house. Hello, Aaron.
Aaron.
That's okay, Aaron. We forgive you. It was just me and Chris anyway. I would have fell asleep too. No, just kidding.
Hey, I get all my stuff from you guys, so your breakdowns, they're incredible.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You're
and
welcome.
if you notice, my voice is coming back, Chris.
Yeah.
Much to
Sounds
the
good.
chagrin of the missus.
She's had you on the silent treatment. You've been quiet for a little while, huh? Let that voice heal.
No, actually, if people have noticed, I'm not smoking those nicotine sticks.
Oh, yeah.
Very frequently. I'm back to vaping. And that, anytime I get laryngitis, I tend to go back to vaping and goes, but I think I'm going to keep vaping instead of going back to the nicotine.
I'm not going to say that's healthy, but it's probably a little bit better for you than
definitely
the
easier.
old cancer sticks.
No more. Oh, yeah. You know what? I also meant to say I saw Charlie Wonton in the house. We all know who that character is. we also see Diane in the house.
Dee Dee.
There's the better half of Jimmy. Hi, Diane.
Yeah, and I saw Chris Tipton in there too.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah,
just a
good friend. Good friend.
Big crowd here. So Jay, let's you know what? While we're doing this part, let's put we can't play the sound in the trailer because unfortunately there were some copyright issues with the music. As far as YouTube was concerned,
what are you gonna do?
We always find
I got the license for the rights. They should know that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just let this play out while we talk, and then that can play in the background when we discuss the show. So I gotta say the runtime on this was what, 2 hours and 4 minutes.
2 hours, 4 minutes.
And man, I mean, that is quite an accomplishment.
Well, thank you.
Well,
everyone kept trying to say keep it down. My first one was 2 hours and 6 minutes, and so I'm going to beat that because some people said that was too long, so I beat it by 2 minutes.
Well, it's
a lot to tell. Yeah,
there were some parts in it that were pretty fast paced, and there's some parts in it that made you sit back and go, I got to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the interesting thing. And if folks haven't seen it, it's it really, what I like about it, it's an honest discussion about all aspects of the Bigfoot phenomenon. I mean, we talked about, and me being on it, we talked about everything across the board. We talked about the extraterrestrial connections. We've talked about the flesh and blood connections. We've talked about the Nephilim, which I was surprised to see that in there with your pastor there. Pastor buddy there. Yep. And then we had the whole paranormal type of thing. And it definitely you deploy a lot of people in a lot of different aspects of the show, which I thought was remarkable.
Thank you.
I mean, who would think of, and I've seen it done before, but who's ever done it on a documentary? It's like I've invited these paranormal investigators to see what they can do.
Exactly.
And I thought that was quite interesting.
Well, I started out thinking the same thing. Just, when I first started out, it was just flesh and blood. That was it. It was a flesh and blood primate we haven't caught up with. And, just everything just always evolves, right? Because actually I was seeing those lights, but I did not put them in my first documentary because just talking about the subject itself is kind of, it all depends. I guess if you really believe, then you really, in the first one, wanted me to say, I believe. But that was me just kind of, learning and getting through the door of trying to understand what Bigfoot is.
Right. And, so there's a few folks more that wandered in. Let's see. We had Dale Boswell. Dale, I hope you're feeling better, brother.
Dale,
You're a little under the weather, so I hope you're feeling better, brother. My prayers are with you. Brother, and prayers are with you, bro. And Bride Guide Pros, hello, welcome. And Pink Patriot, welcome as well.
Welcome. Good to see you.
So, and I noticed your beliefs kind of are you see them evolve a little bit in this documentary. I noticed when you start, you're calling them Sasquatch. By the end of it, you're calling them Sasquatch people at times.
Right. Yeah. And I always rolled my eyes whenever I heard that at the beginning. People would call them,
still do.
Yeah, the elders, and it's kind of like, dude, it is it's a Bigfoot. It's it's a primate we haven't caught up with. But I just kind of had a little bit more respect, I guess, in my area.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, there's what I liked about it. You covered a lot of different opinions of what the Sasquatch may be, and that's good. It's good to keep an open mind, and right. Everybody's got their own opinion, and I'm no different. I think they're just some sort of undiscovered primate. Mm-hmm. Nothing magical about them, but I also think that sometimes there can be phenomenon that happens along with a sighting that may make somebody think, well, hey, maybe something else is going on here, and it's entirely plausible,
Well, my thing has always been from the beginning, because remember, from 2013 and below, Bigfoot wasn't even on my radar. I mean, I would look for ghosts, UFOs. I believed in the Loch Ness Monster, but Bigfoot to me still didn't exist. The Patterson film was a guy in a suit. Everybody's been doing this for so long, and nobody's ever really been able to bring a body in or really good quality video. And every video that comes up, it's a hoax. So it's kind of like it was never on my radar. It was like a unicorn or a leprechaun.
Hey,
which they may be next in Finding J3. No, I'm just joking. But my thing.
Hello, Billy.
My thing has always been if they were just flesh and blood, and I do believe they are flesh and blood. I think they have other different attributes, but if they were just a flesh and blood creature like a gorilla, how are we finding a trackway of, like I did, 12, and they just disappear? See, none of that ever has made sense. Or just finding the one single print, which I understand people said they can pivot, jump, and throw you off track. I don't know. And again,
well, I always ask this question to people that ask that question.
Yeah.
In my view, I don't want to get in an argumentative. This is an open discussion, but a lot of times people will say that. Well, how do you explain that? Well, have you ever tracked a deer or a bear?
No. I mean,
they tend to do that too.
Yeah. Just disappear.
It all depends. It depends on substrate.
Right.
Right. So all of a sudden you'll be tracking, and all of a sudden where to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just because they disappear doesn't mean it has a number of different factors. If anybody has ever tracked a deer, a moose, a bear, anything, a wolf, a cat, you're gonna eventually their tracks are gonna peter off, and it's not because they just. So that's something I caution people. It tends to be the big argument. Well, how do you explain that? Well, how do you explain that with a deer?
Right.
So that's something that, people, and explain. And, unfortunately, and thank you for your honesty is that's the majority answer. Well, have you ever tracked a deer? Well, no, I haven't. So
right.
A deer does that too.
Hey, I've always said I'm not Outback Jack or Crocodile Dundee,
right? Yeah,
or Native American who can track these. But no, and the thing is,
that's beautiful.
I'm just saying it's always learning. I've always been out to hunt the truth, whether or not I'm not trying to prove Bigfoot's out there. I know it is, but I'm also not going to tell people what it is. I don't think anybody really has. I think we all feel like we do have it down pat. We have that answer, and maybe we do.
Absolutely. And you know what? And Jay, you talked about taking a break from doing this as far as documentaries for a while.
Yeah.
But let me give you some great ideas, and this is what I tell people that do this in the research. And this show is geared mostly for researchers and people that are interested in the fine tuning of the research. Is that if you're going to research, you know what? And this is what I did is track a deer, cast some prints of known animals. It gets you used to doing it. So that's just maybe a little primer for you. Hey, you never track a deer.
Right. And that's totally great advice with that, because like we were just talking about on the backstage before getting up on there about the woodpecker. We're also talking about when I was out there and hearing different sounds. And even though I've been in this one area for 9 years, just because I heard it last week does not make it a Bigfoot. I mean, I was probably not out there at that one particular time, over the past 9 years, and it just happened to be. So that's how I always take it. That's how I always approach it. Never trying to prove it, but always just trying to find out what the truth is.
And that's what I love about this program. You never turn around and say, it's a Bigfoot, right? You turn around like you were talking about the tree stuff, and you're saying, well, let's be honest that we've never seen a Bigfoot do this. So to say a Bigfoot's doing this is kind of not right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just because it's all by correlation, right? If you're in an old haunted house and you hear a creak, well, automatically it's a ghost, right? Because you're in a haunted house. And when you're out in the woods and you're like, all right, you're looking for Bigfoot, and you see these tree structures, automatically that is, associated with Bigfoot doing these. Now, I don't have some of these other huge structures that I've seen done, the big thicker trees like lifted up 30 feet with the ball root coming from the top. I can't explain that either.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about like the
X's,
right. So yeah, definitely. I'm always trying to keep open with whatever I do out there.
Yep. I thought Ron was really on point with some of the things he said. Do I believe everything? No, because he does have a lot of his own opinions that he interjects.
Of course,
Yep.
And this is
don't we all?
Well, and this is something that Ken Gerhard and I talked when we were up in a conference up here in Michigan in the beginning of June. We're just kind of sitting right off Green Bay there, and we did kind of talk about that. And because we were talking about you, Steve. We're talking about the apers, and right away Ken's like, "Yeah, I'm an aper," which is good. I'm an aper, and he goes. And Ken looks at me and goes, "You look kind of part of the woo." And I'm like, "Hey, look, I keep an open mind at all the camps." But he did bring up one point, though. He goes, he noticed that people that are a little bit more spiritual, I mean, this is what he was saying, that, he felt that are a little bit more open to, like you were saying, the second camp about the Native Americans and how they call them spirits. At the same time, I don't look at this as like an apparition. I mean, I think it is flesh and blood, right? 100%. I believe it's flesh and blood, but I think it can do things that no other animal that's known, that is, I don't know if that's borderline. I don't want to say paranormal, but borderline supernatural. I don't know, but just the way some of these things moved, we're talking about the Devin Richard thing where he said when it took off, it moved like a blur. I've never talked to him about it, but what I saw was the same thing, I believe, because when I looked at it, it looked like auburn hair shape of something. And right when I looked at it, the thing took off from like 0 to 500 miles an hour, just, like that. And I just saw the blur, and I saw the blur. And that's what, when Devin was saying this, I was like, wow. When he said it was like a blur, I was like, I got to talk to this guy, originally when I was talking to him. But so again, what can move that fast if it was, a known primate? That's, it's just my thoughts.
Right. But I look at it from the aspect too, is that, if you watch a car go by and you're standing 20 feet away from it, it drives by you at 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour. It's going pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
When you're in that perspective.
That's true.
And, when we're in the car, we don't think so.
Seems like we're going slow.
But when you're standing there and it goes by you and you're at a standstill.
Yeah.
So if something can leap to a 20, 25, up to a 40-mile-an-hour sprint on a short burst,
Right.
man, that can look really fast.
Yeah. All I know is it kind of freaked me out at that point because I didn't know anymore what I was looking for. It's like I'm finding the prints. I'm having the behavior of rocks and branches thrown at me from out of the kettle.
Now that's something that is, you're getting rocks thrown at you. Guess what? You can't necessarily explain that by any other means.
But some of them were in my first documentary. If you remember, there was a hunter saying, well, when I hunted, he would keep rocks in his hand. That way, if a rabbit or whatever was going in front of a bush around him, that he would throw a rock into the bush to scare out what he was trying to get. I'm just saying that he was just saying that's what some would do. But I'm telling you, with walking those couple hundred yards on that path and having them land right by our feet, we didn't hear anything trekking through the kettle, and that's pretty tough terrain to try to keep ahead of us, to lead us.
Yeah. Oh, we got a lot of good comments here. David says, I knew a former spec ops guy who would basically Bigfoot up in the mountains. He saw them plenty of times, said they can move cartoon fast.
Yeah. Cartoon fast. That's good.
Bayou Flats. And welcome, Bayou Flats. I hope to see you more. Athletes run 2-second, 40-yard dashes. A being with 600 to 800 pounds plus of fast twitch muscle will be able to do incredible feats. I agree. And think about the muscularity. I mean, they're so strong as it is. Mm-hmm. Those legs got to have some incredible movement power.
Yeah, but when you think about that, Steve, okay, just because they can do superhuman feats, stuff that we couldn't do, that doesn't necessarily make them supernatural.
No, not
but
at all.
It could appear to somebody, oh my God, it just disappeared.
Or the camouflage.
They're thinking in their mind, well, no human can do this, so it's got to be some sort of magic. Right. Or something. Not necessarily. These things could move at top speed.
Nick says, Steve, I've spent it faster than Sasquatch eating some Nashville hot chicken, and I have sciatica.
Oh, that'll do it.
Mick, that's funny. Oh, gosh.
There you go. Whoop. My eyes. Said, where can we watch this documentary? Sorry if you haven't yet.
Right on Amazon Prime. Both films are on there. They're actually on Amazon Prime and Vimeo. It's the only way to really get them. I mean, I do have Blu-rays, but right now they're only being sold through my website. But if you want to stream them, they're going to be on Prime and Vimeo.
And we will have an opportunity to show everybody where to buy the as well at the end. Yeah. We have something even special set up right there. See that? See that, Jay?
Look at that. Woohoo.
We'll show that again later.
To be distracted.
Yeah, we'd be like.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so, you're talking about,
Joe just said, thanks, guys. Now I'll be obsessing to how fast Rasta could have been on me if he wanted to be. Rasta is what he calls his Bigfoot because of the way it kind of looked. It kind of looked all,
really,
matted a bit. So,
really, Blake named ours Barney, but he was like 5 years old when he named him that.
Yeah, was he purple?
No, he wasn't purple. I think that was just a B name. So he's calling him Barney the Bigfoot. And it was, it was a joke, and Blake laughs about it now. He's going to be 15, but it's like, hey, I think I saw Barney out there. It sounds even crazier, right? Barney the Bigfoot.
Hello, everybody.
I know, right? I love you.
Oh, let's all go to the toy box.
It's not a cool name, but now I got to stick with it because my son named him. So,
so I, the whole blurring thing, like I said, I saw that little guy, the 5.5 foot one, take off, and it was fast. It was like, and like I say, you talk about, paranormal aspects, and I always say that about the deer crossing the road. You see a deer cross the road, you're looking, where the hell will it go? I don't see it.
Right. Yeah,
You
it
know?
just kind of like jumped off and
Yeah,
disappeared.
So again, not supernatural, but has that ability to
Right.
do certain things.
Sure.
And you know, I
Different
don't know
attributes of what we can do. I mean, we can't run that
You
fast.
know,
I don't think
and
any primate can run that fast. Do you think that could bolt that fast?
yes.
I don't think that anything.
Oh,
that'll
a
go that fast
gorilla
other than a Bigfoot.
okay, you guys talk about that. Hang on a second.
Yeah. Those things can scoot and silent too. And people, some of the guys joking about Bigfoot's call them, what was it, woods ninjas or something like
Okay,
that?
so
Yeah,
a
the
gorilla's top speed is 25 miles an hour.
Okay.
That's
That's
pretty
more
fast.
than me.
Yep.
Faster
So-
than me too.
Yeah, and they have short little legs.
I'll
They
race
do.
him on a mini bike though.
Yeah, right. Grab that bike on you.
Let's see.
I really,
Go.
I really enjoyed that documentary. And I think
Chimpanzee is
it's gonna go
also
over big.
25 miles an hour.
Oh yeah.
And I think, you know who the slow ones are going to be?
Well, their muscle structure is a lot different than ours, and they can do things that humans cannot do.
And the slow ones, the orangutans, 2.7 miles per hour.
Yeah, well, they walk, they don't run.
Right turn, Clyde.
Yeah, they're not in any hurry to get where they want to be.
Yeah.
Well, that would be good though, in case you're ever chased. Make sure you get chased by an orangutan. That way, you can move away fast enough to.
But, you know,
catch you.
I remember reading Diane Fossey, who commented on how incredibly fast, how quick the apes could be to build up their sprint speed. And that's the amazing thing. If you think about it, none of these animals, even bears for the most part, aren't long distance runners.
No.
They're sprinters, and they just launch. And they launch almost at top speed a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Like when a gorilla charge. I mean, a gorilla charge starts right from boom. So, you know, if a Sasquatch books it, it's only going to book it for a short distance, I'm sure.
Yeah. Do you think it's faster on 2 legs than 4?
I think so. I really am.
Two
and I
or
also
three
think-
steps and it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all they need. You heard that song, "Give me 3 steps, mister, and I'll be out the door." I think that's about all they need.
Like
About
I
3
said,
steps.
like I said that in my first documentary, the sighting I had, of course, I didn't have any camera or video or anything on it, but I mean, this was again, remember I said I was kind of new to doing the Bigfoot stuff. So it was kind of like when I thought I would see Bigfoot, it would be Harry and the Hendersons or the Patterson Gimlet, Patty. But this thing was on all 4s, but it really resembled like a gangly chimpanzee, like thin. It wasn't barrel chested bulk. It was, the weirdest thing. But like I said, is when I'm looking at it, the thing moves behind tree and brush, but it was like on a cart with wheels. Like you never saw anything move. It just kind of like a statue being pulled behind a tree. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
If you notice the same thing with Patty as Patty walks.
Yeah.
It doesn't bounce.
Doesn't bounce. Right.
Kind of glides.
Yeah.
It's on
My
skateboards.
buddy described the same movement. He said it was like a smooth, like a floating movement. As it went down the hill, it just kind of floated away from him.
Right.
And,
That's what I'm saying is that I can understand then where people said, well, they're ghosts because they can float. But just the way their anatomy working with the hands. I always think that they're like Fred Flintstone's Twinkle Toes when he's bowling, and just the fingers come out in his toes and they just kind of belly crawl around.
Yeah. Here's funny. Raptor Crazy says, "Yeah, I hope you can move fast away enough from an orangutan, but if they grab you, he can break you faster than anything else." Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh boy, that would be a bad day for everybody.
Don't want to do that whenever we go to the Milwaukee Zoo up there. They have that one bar that you can pull to see the strength of what an orangutan can do.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there pulling it. And it's just like, depending on how strong you are, the orangutan can just crank it open and just break you in half.
And that's the thing too. You know, a lot of people will say, you know, if you've had a sighting, and they'll say, "Well, why didn't you run up to
hang
it?
on, hang
Why didn't
on.
you run up to it?" You know.
Now I got to go to the YouTube channel because we have a spammer in the chat.
Uh-oh.
And that's my.
Yeah, people will ask you if you've had a sighting. Well, why didn't you run towards it? Well,
it's different when you're out there. I don't care what anybody says. Again, I'm not Crocodile Dundee where I'm gonna to whatever's out there. But you know, when it happens, I guess it's just it's a hard explanation. I always think about it afterwards, like why didn't I go down there? But there's a lot of times where it's just that fear just wants to push you out.
Yeah, let you know what you're made of. You know, if I would like for those people that would like to run towards one to have a sighting. It would be good. You know,
and I'm sorry, I'm trying to get there, folks, but it's taking me forever.
I'll watch.
Because I'm running everything off of.
Like tackle it like the Tim Tebow commercial, where Tim Tebow retired and he tackles a Squatch. It's like, yeah, I'd love to see that, and it's always different every time I go out. You know, that's what we're trying to do, is hunt the truth, find any clues, you know, just try to keep, you know, finding more and more answers to the, you know, million-piece puzzle.
Just the known primates that we know of, the gorillas and the chimpanzees, I have been really close to those. And of course, now they were in cages, all right?
Yeah.
But I have no doubt in my mind, had they wanted to, they could have grabbed those cages and just spread them, ripped them apart.
Yeah. Then you're in a world of hurt.
That would have been a bad day for
because they're coming for you.
Yeah.
Last time you stick your tongue out at me in this cage.
That's why you keep packs of gum and smokes and stuff when you're around. Here you go, buddy.
That's right. That's right. It's almost like gifting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But like,
now,
you know, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. And I was just going to say, because it's like, you know, and I am always looking at when we're talking about, you know, the flesh and blood primate, you know, that we haven't caught up with yet, that is out there. Now it's that correlation, just like you were talking about that tree that I saw, and just because it's bent does not make it said Sasquatch did that. And the same thing with the lights, because like I said, as I've been seeing these lights out there, and I've only recorded really one good one, and even that was a hard quality to bring up. But when you're watching this and it's happening, and it's not just to me, but you know, with the people I go out with, it's just, you know, they're so hard to explain because they are truly orbs of light. I've seen the sprites out there that look like little will-o-the-wisp, and I've seen white orbs. I've seen diffused orbs. The one that really kind of got me to kind of where I'm at right now really was, you know, with that thermal that I caught that you guys watched today on Beyond the Kettle, is there was a thermal there, right? And we can't really say if it was a Bigfoot. Even I gave that to Steve, and he broke that down, which was awesome. But to me, the way it was looking, you know, peeking, it was almost like the behavior I heard of kind of like, what are you doing? I'm back. Here I am. Right. And the thing had to have been huge. It had to have been more into the tree line. Anyway, but just as it went away for that last time is when that orb of light came from the direction of where that thing was peaking. And it went right in front of the three of us. We're watching it. And just as it went out of sight, we heard a total breakthrough, which was not caught on the audio, a real breakthrough, the brush. So I was trying to figure that out. You're seeing an orb of light kind of do an arc and go down, disappear, break through the trees. So I'm like, I don't think an orb of light is physical to break down the trees. I mean, I don't know. Again, that could be all coincidence because I didn't see. But that's when I started, you know, kind of getting to where I'm at now, because I didn't know.
The balls of light were certainly interesting. And, you know, we share a similar phenomenon in Kentucky, and it's really interesting. And I was really into that in the early 90s, trying to figure out what that was. And, you know, I think that could be another natural phenomena that might be getting tied together with something else. The two may not be related. It's possible that they could be, I guess, because I don't know. I can't say for sure they're not. But I think that's two natural phenomena that are occurring together. It would be more coincidence than anything.
Yeah, and that was it. It's not that I just saw the orb of light out there, and because I was out in the woods saying that orb is a Bigfoot, or it was more that thermal that I caught.
Yeah.
And then when it peaked and ducked behind for the last time is when I saw the orb. So it was almost like, step 1, step 2, the crash, step 3.
Yeah.
That's all I've got, and I have no idea. But that's, what I'm saying? That's kind of just where I.
And for all you know, if there was a Sasquatch out there, it could have been reacting to the orb of light, seeing it coming towards it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Or it was going near it when one was out there, and then it bolted. And that's what that crash was. I don't know.
The curiosity was piqued, and it said, "Wait a minute, there's not a human over there, but there's some light. Let's check that out. What is that?"
Yeah. So again, those are the things I don't know.
And it's funny, you've heard me, comment on a lot of this stuff, Jay, on camera, off camera, during the documentary, and I'm not ever one to take somebody's experiences away. I saw this Bigfoot, and next thing you know, it was an orb of light. Right. And we've heard those type of things. And I'm not one to take that away from somebody, say, okay, but I'm more to what could have caused that.
Right.
And to me, there are a lot of logical explanations that what could have caused that. But what I find interesting is that if you see a Sasquatch or you see what you believe is a Sasquatch, or you hear something and you catch it on your camera, well, now we're in a different kind of ballgame, because now that's not something caused by infrasound, because infrasound doesn't cause eyeballs to vibrate in your camera, which would cause a hallucination. Okay. It doesn't, so you got to kind of, it may be paranormal. It may be, so at least we know we can rule one out. If you have a Sasquatch experience and capture an orb on your camera at the same time. The point is, though, is what you heard a Sasquatch. We
correct,
don't know.
Right, exactly.
We don't know that either.
Just
so
like
we
the
can't,
therm,
right? We can't tie any of this together yet because the dots haven't completely connected.
Correct. It's all by my theory, right?
Yep.
If I was going out there just looking for Dogman, right? Then all these things that were happening out there was going to be a Dogman looking behind a tree, or UFOs. Those are just UFOs flying through trees. Again, I don't know, and all I wanted to do is put that out there. That's why, again, whenever I do the documentary, it has nothing to do with fame or fortune, because we know that Prime doesn't pay anything. I'm saying I just want to put this out there of saying this is what I'm experiencing here in the Kettle Moraine in Wisconsin.
We do have some questions in the chat.
Yeah.
Tim asked me and Chris what were our thoughts on the orbs. We're going to put that one towards the end for now. Yeah. Mick asks, what is it that makes some people link orbs of light to Sasquatch? He doesn't see it. Well, I think that it's kind of not a logical process necessarily, which is a big argument of skeptics or people like a Kenny Biddle would argue that, Kenny Biddle would argue that, hey,
You'd argue everything.
Yeah. Actually, I was just on his show a couple of months ago. So, and it's kind of flawed logic. You hear something in the woods, it's got to be Bigfoot. You see this orb, it's got to be, Bigfoot. It must be related to this orb. Well, maybe that sound you heard in the forest is maybe actually paranormal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe it's a critter.
Right.
Maybe it's paranormal. Maybe that's tied with the footsteps because it's paranormal.
That's why we brought out the ghost box.
Yeah.
Tobias brought out the ghost box.
We'll talk about let's talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
So I want to get okay. So let's talk about the ghost box and the which I thought was even more fascinating was the EMF detector.
Yeah, the K2.
The K2.
And the thing is, because I was a paranormal, well, I started doing that in 2007, looking for ghosts and everything. You know, we saw it on Ghost Hunters. They were using a K2, so that must be the ghost meter of choice. So actually, it was Karen's K2 because I really don't bring one out there, but she did, and I'm like, you're not going to find anything out here because you're going to get a zero flat line. You know, out in these woods, there's no power lines. There's, you know, besides what the Earth could get off, but all of a sudden we're just right there, and the thing's just going crazy. Right. But I remember from my, from my paranormal ghost investigating, you have a phone right next to it. It could be getting to receiving, and start tripping it. So we wanted to make sure that, Karen didn't have her phone on. Sanjay was far enough away, but the thing was like still super strong, and it didn't last that long, and then it went away. So
now let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
Was anybody on the radios?
Nobody was on the. I didn't actually have radios out that day.
Okay.
Yep.
Because they'll trip an EMF detector, right? They'll trip max.
Exactly. And I was trying to think of anything, which the only thing it could have been is one of our phones. Karen didn't have it on, and she was holding it. Yeah.
Now I did learn one thing.
Yeah.
That you don't necessarily have to turn your cell phone off, but if you turn it into airplane mode, that will also cancel out those EMF effects.
Right. Yep.
So,
yeah. So, I mean, it was weird, and it's, again, she's the one carrying that around, and I'm still just walking around, I'm walking around doing my thing.
Yeah. That really piqued my interest when that started going off, and I couldn't help but wonder. I wonder if there was any deposits of magnetite around the area, that may have set it off.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
See, I didn't have those gadgets that Steve was talking about in my film, getting getting all these other things to go walk out with. And that's, that's in time when I can get that equipment and it's more readily available, or even if it's borrowed and used out there.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking at things like that. It's just not always.
Well, I think for finding J3, you need to borrow the Squatch Detective and have him go out to Wisconsin.
The invitation's always open, always. I'd love for you to come out here.
Because I'll drive out and bring the whole complement of toys.
Then you're coming out. All right. No, we'll definitely do that. I'd love to have you out in the kettle. Just, spend several days, nights.
Yeah.
Be awesome.
Oh yeah. We had camp out there. Let's put up the tent. And
we're going to camp. I found this awesome campground. That's like I didn't want to use the term like Bobo would, Squash City, like you would, whenever he says that, but I'm telling you, it's like, it's deep in the woods. It's awesome.
And, you make some great, now let me ask you a question. That part of, Wisconsin,
Southeast Wisconsin. Yeah.
A lot of apple orchards out there.
Yeah. Corn.
That makes sense. So it's basically New York.
Yeah.
It's basically
not New York City. New York State.
Now, in this video, there are some really interesting little snippets. I thought the visit to the farm, the farmer, I forgot his name.
Lee Hampel.
Yeah, Lee. Really good guy. I mean, he seems like, hey, this is, he tells it like it is.
And he does.
He does.
When he shows you all of everything he's documented. And I mean, again, a retired math teacher who's hay farmer has just books of photos, dates, weather, you name it. And when you look at it, I ask him, I go, wow, that's wild. What is it? And he's like, I don't know. You tell me, because he's being honest. We really don't know what is out in that field. I would love to have put that part in this section in my documentary, which I didn't, but I had another production crew come out from Colorado last October, and we actually did an investigation in his property. Now check this out. And again, I have no proof of it. This is just my word. And we start the investigation probably around twilight, right around 7-ish, right around there as it was starting to get dark. Big field, as you can see, to cover in that field. And so we do our thing, and we ended up on the north ridge line, or the north tree line of his property. And Okay, so long story longer, producer called me just 2 days after when he got back to Colorado saying, "What did you mean when you were on the south end of the field?" And I'm like, "I wasn't on the south end of the field." He goes, No. What did you mean when you said that you didn't need something to do with batteries?" I'm like, I thought he was just pulling a fast one on me. Like, I don't recall. I mean, I remember everything. And he actually showed me, he actually sent me a couple of clips so that I could watch what I was saying. And when he sent them to me, my jaw dropped because I'm watching me speak on this video that I have no recollection of at all. For the whole time we were kind of down in the low marshland before we got to the north tree line, I don't recall. I mean, I'm pulling out lasers, looking through my infrared binoculars, and that really bothered me because, you know, you could make it a big joke, kind of like, haha, you don't remember? How do you not remember? I remember everything before that and after that, but I don't remember 28 minutes to a half hour of that time. And
so let me ask you a question.
yeah,
How far is this farm roughly from the Kettle?
it's roughly about 8 miles south.
So very
from
close.
Oh yeah, really close.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's actually this farm actually butts up right next to Bray Road. So, you know,
now you're starting to see my thoughts on the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I say it in the documentary, and I'm not going to say it here, but you hear me towards the end of it, what we were talking about.
Yep, I know.
Before.
I know.
And you see this.
Why do you think I had you on my show?
Yep. I think the Sasquatch being there is just a coinkydink.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think that there's a lot of commonalities with that and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's screaming at me like, whoa. So you have your own situation there. And I don't think it's just confined to, you know, his farm or to the Kettle. I think the Kettle may kind of be the blowover.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's actually focused, considering the amount of evidence he's gotten at the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Kettle's kind of like the blowover, like that other situation with the neighbors.
Right. 100%. Because I mean, the thing is, you know, right on Bray, there has been dogman sightings, Bigfoot sightings, from what some people say. I've had a few weird encounters that I didn't really share because, again, there was no evidence and it's just my word, and I just sound crazy if I'm driving, you know, close to 2 a.m. and just patrolling down a road doing, 18, 20 miles an hour, and all of a sudden I see what looks like a 7-foot bipedal wolf looking up, and it just caught me off to the left right by the ditch. I immediately hit the brakes because I felt brave. I'm in the car and I'm with somebody, throw it in reverse, back up and do kind of a 2-point turn right there. And it's just an empty field. There's no tree, it's all harvested, field. There's no trees. There's no bush. There's nothing that I would have saw for a second, like a tree or a post or something. There was just nothing there. So, again, in my head, it's like, am I hallucinating? This was that was in 2015. So I'm like, maybe I hallucinated, but I remember it so well. So again, there's just a lot of weird crap. Yeah.
Matt says, late to the show, I thought the Bucks were playing, but they are not. That's right, Matt. The buck stops here.
Well, the Bears weren't on right now because
that
way I wouldn't have to watch it because New York's happy that they beat the Bears today. Yeah, the Bears suck. I'll say it. I'm a diehard Bears fan, but man, they're bad. Yeah. But anyway, so it that area has a lot of high strangeness to it. And again, I won't even pretend to know what that stuff is because I really don't.
Chris tipped in and said that the sheriff's department were actually issued silver bullets when the Bray story rolled.
That is correct.
Wow.
When Linda Godfrey, actually, thanks, Chris. Actually, when Linda started writing this up, she was actually a cartoonist for the Lake Geneva newspaper, and somebody started reporting from the sheriff's office that they saw a werewolf. And I think it was, I don't know if it was right around Halloween or so. She's going to do this segment on just interviewing people. And the more people she interviewed, the more the unrelated they were and everything that they shared. And remember, this was pre-internet, so nobody really could talk to each other over social media. Right. And it became, a big thing with all these reports. And that's when Linda deemed it the Beast of Bray Road. And they did, like Chris said, they issued silver bullets. And they actually had a file marked with all these encounters. The file tab was named werewolf, with the authorities. I mean, so I'm just saying it's crazy, but I guess every town has its own hidden little.
Well, don't forget the FBI has a file on cattle mutilation.
That is true. Yeah.
This is a really wild. I mean, this is the conversation I've been waiting to have for a while, because this is really a crossover type of episode, because there's so much intricacies to, like I say, I think the Bigfoot of the Kettle is just secondary to all this other stuff going on.
Yeah. It's like what you said, which we won't repeat here on the documentary. And you said it perfectly, which makes 100% sense. Actually, when Mary Marshall, when she got done watching it, she 100% agreed with you on everything. So,
yeah, that's nice.
So you got that good fan there, where I'm like, well, it could be this, we couldn't be. And the thing is, like you would say, nobody really knows, but I don't want to make that sound like I know it, because I don't. And who knows in the next 2 years if I evolve from where I'm at now to something different. I'm just gonna keep going.
And I don't deny that. I definitely have looked at the phenomena a little differently. Not that it's paranormal, but I guess environmentally, my surroundings, I've looked a little bit differently. 22 years ago, I didn't ask, what's the composition of the soil in this area?
Right.
Is there a lot of quartz?
Right.
Or quartz?
Yep.
Is there a lot of iron? Is there a lot of a particular type of metal that may, have some other type of effect?
And it's like these orbs that you were saying are around Lee's place. You couldn't see them with the naked eye. You can only see them in infrared. I couldn't even see them on thermal, because I also brought my therm out. Could see nothing in therm, but everything seemed to want to show up in infrared.
Now, my question, and I know, and Chris, I don't know, Chris, you've seen those gaseous anomalies in Kentucky?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do they move around and move about and go up and down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they can go up a tree, come down a tree, move across the top of the field. They can split. They can come together. Then all of a sudden they can go.
That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Like I said, I've never seen anything like that before. When I started putting out the feelers,
yes,
my second documentary with the lights, when you put your feelers out, you start getting interesting calls, and then of course I got to weed through the BS meter on a lot of this, and a lot of it's just like I was trying to explain, what that was again when you see it in the film. But my whole thing was the not so much of it just going back and forth, but when the two lights came together and started to mirror each other, that I just did. It just kind of blew my head when
I have been looking into any oil and gas production in that area, Jay, and I can't seem to find any. That's the thing that I think is related with this phenomena is natural gas.
But then again, has anybody videotaped the phenomenon and put it out there as that phenomenon? No. Or is that just an explanation people have been giving us to kind of answer the phenomenon away?
Right. There's times too,
because
swear.
that would be very interesting, Chris. If that type of activity is happening, you seeing it in the same area that there's a Sasquatch as well.
Yeah.
You know, so that
there's other things that are out there that are kind of weird, and they're real like loud pounds in the ground. It would almost be like as if King Kong or Godzilla was coming and taking a big step. You couldn't feel the tremble, but you just hear the, you know, like deep. And so I always thought that was like somebody out there, they're fracking or something, you know. I couldn't find anywhere where they would be fracking, but then that started making me think, what the hell's under these hills of kettles? You know, is there caves under there, or you know, that's actually what I want to explore. But of course, you know, I can't find any cave entrances.
Well, there's not supposed to be any oil and gas reserves in Wisconsin, which I don't believe that. I believe there's going to be small pockets somewhere in the state, because we have it in Kentucky too. And although we're not exactly Texas, we make up 0.04% of the energy, gas and oil storage of Kentucky, of the country. Of course, now to put that in perspective, Texas makes up 33.7%. So there is a little oil production in Kentucky and natural gas production, even though we're at 0.04%. Now, with Wisconsin shows at 0. That means not necessarily that there isn't any. It's just there's not been enough they've found to make a production facility.
Right.
You know?
So, but then I was thinking if they weren't fracking for, you know, natural energy, I was thinking, what else are they doing? And again, I guess that's where my, you know, the fox molder, you know, I start to think of all the conspiracy things and everything. But, you know, I try to keep my feet on the ground when I'm doing it. And I do go out with a lot of good people that help me stay there as well. You know, Chris Tipton's one of them, which is good. You know, I need that when I'm going out there. I need to find that balance instead of it just coming to a, you know, my theory. But again, I always tell people it's just my theory. I have no idea. And I leave it like that. I'd rather say I don't know than try to pretend I do know.
Well, see, that's funny. Lester, you know, had a good point. Wisconsin has a lot of shale. Well, that is very important, because shale in the oil industry, that's called a cap rock. Now, normally oil, and I don't want to get this into a geology lesson here, but normally oil is under the ground. Okay. Right. Oil is lighter. It's less dense than the soil. So it actually wants to come up to the top of the ground, just like Jed Clampets, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But if you've got shale or another cap rock, that means there's a layer of shale in the ground. So the oil comes up, hits it. It can't go through that.
Right.
So that keeps it trapped in these pools. And it's not like an ocean of oil, but it's trapped within the rock, you know.
Gotcha.
And once you poke a hole down through that, then the oil comes rushing out of the rock, and a lot of times it'll go right up the hole to the top.
Nice. I'd feel like I'd be rich like Jed Clampett.
Yeah, especially these days, I think you.
You know, right?
Texas tea, that is.
Yeah.
Black gold.
But that's very interesting. I think you know, even though they list Wisconsin as not really any production reserve of oil or natural gas, I'm just not willing to accept that. I believe that there may be some oil and natural gas somewhere.
There you go. See, that's what I mean. We can't believe everything we read. They say down here in southeast Wisconsin, there's no black bear, there's no cougars. There's plenty of, you know, game capture footage around this area that they're out there. But yet the DNR is going to tell us they're not down here at all. And I'm like, I beg to differ.
Well, you know, the only place I've ever seen a moose in the wild, all the times I've been in Vermont, was in Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah. Driving over one of the interstates and looking in the field, and there was 2 of them. Like, dude.
Cool.
Yeah. So exactly, that's what I try not to do. Is I try not to sit here and believe everything I hear, you know, on the news or the internet or the web. It's like, what's great about this field is everybody does have something to contribute that they've done separately in their areas, you know, because people ask me all the time, like, Jay, don't you go here or into another state? And I'm like, no, I have a relationship with the woods. I'm not saying with Bigfoot. I have a relationship with the woods because I'm trying to understand the indigenous animals, the wildlife that's out there, and the surroundings, and being really familiar with it. That's what I love about the kettle. I mean, it's beautiful and mysterious at the same time.
Well, now I'm thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I was in, how far are you from Deer Park, Wisconsin?
Why is that where you're, let's see if
that's where I did my Bigfoot investigation years ago. Was in
you
Deer
did.
Park.
Was it with that that wasn't finding Bigfoot, was it?
No. But no, I was out there years ago. And it was kind of funny because we set some trail cameras up and told the guy, don't go out there.
Right.
Don't mess with the trail cameras. And we got a trail cam picture of him messing with the trail cameras.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we're out. See him.
Yeah. I think now Deer Park, that looks like it's more closer on the west side of Wisconsin, kind of central north.
Yeah.
It's kind of up there. No, so I mean, from where I'm at right now, is if you kind of looked at the, in between the Madison Milwaukee area, kind of right in the middle, you're going to see the kettle right there, which looks like nothing. I mean, if you do a satellite and look at it, kind of like my wife does, she'll look at that going, how could Bigfoot really exist there? When you have all this other woods everywhere else. And I'm like, look, the prints that I found, I've not been able to figure out if, those were, if somebody in fact made those for me, which would have been weird because it was in a very odd area, a very odd time of day. It was snowing that day. So if I didn't find them, that snow that was coming down would have filled those holes up, probably within an hour or two. But you know what I mean? It was very weird. And of course it was the gate, or, the from heel to toe, or from heel to heel. I've never seen anything that, that large of a gate there. It was like 53 inches, and I was trying to do that just with my boots on, and I can only get like,
there you go,
not a foot,
Well, there's quite a bit of area there. I mean, we're talking about an area of state forest that runs at least 35 miles in length, and probably on average 2 to 3 miles or maybe more in width. So we're talking a lot of elbow room out there for something to remain unfound.
Yeah.
And the way it's headed north.
Well, I'm just saying, Steve. So like when you come out, when you check this out, it's like, from the areas that I research or look at or hike, it's not even a pinhead, putting that on how vast, the kettle is itself. Because we hear a lot of calls, from, if you listen to the little radars, like, the apps you have, and there's some people that have actually, they get lost out there while they're hiking. Yeah. And then you hear them looking for them, and then they find them. But that's just somebody just going on a normal nature hike. So it's crazy.
Very fascinating.
Lots of waterways through there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you need water for survival, and that's one of the common links about Sasquatch sightings, there's always some water around somewhere.
Yeah,
always.
You've got East Branch Milwaukee River, Forest Lakes. There's not only rivers, but there's also lakes in there. It's great. I mean, if I was going to set up living in the wild in Wisconsin, that's where I would go.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that they're just underground dwellers, I'm always thinking that you could open up like a little trap door, and then there's an elevator that goes down to the Bigfoot den or the little hobby, and I'll sit down there with a vending machine laughing at us. But no, but being serious, it's like, I hear about like the Olympics, where they find those nests, those really big ones. But it's like, I've never found anything like that. Well, so far around here. Have you guys ever come across that? Like a big nest like that's over 6 feet, almost like a big bird nest, I guess is what it is.
Not in a cave. No.
You mean on the forest floor?
Yeah. Just
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Found some nests.
I don't talk about, it's funny, really funny because there's a lot of things I've come across I don't talk about too much.
Yeah.
Because I'm not 100% sure, but
Right.
they look really good to me.
Yeah.
So I put that back in here, put it in the file.
Right.
And start looking around. And when I start building correlations, then I start.
Exactly. Because that's what I'm saying. Again, you're out in the woods.
Yep.
You're looking for Bigfoot. You find a nest. It's got to be a Bigfoot nest. And I understand that, where it's like, you really don't know.
Well, what's a Bigfoot nest look like?
I don't know.
Well,
like Big Bird's nest?
No. I would start looking at like gorilla nests, chimp nests, orangutan nests. Orangutans are very interesting because not only do they weave a floor nest, but they also weave pillows, which is really, for head support and stuff, which is really wild. And if an orangutan can do it, I guess Sasquatch can do. So I'm pretty sure if you look like at a gorilla nest or something like that, it'll kind of give you an idea of what a Sasquatch bedding area should look like. Yeah. I've seen the Marble Mountain video. And I'm sorry, but those nests look like coyote dens to me. I've seen coyote dens in the wild, and that's what it looked like to me. I would have said, well, that's a coyote den.
Do you ever find any like hair samples or anything to extract?
The only hair I've ever found in the Adirondacks was actually, and I took it home. I knew it wasn't a Sasquatch hair. It was way too short, but I wanted to know what kind of hair it was.
Yeah.
And as soon as I put it under my little magnification toy I had at the time, I could very clearly see it was a red hair with a black hair with just at the base, but the rest of it was red. It was a red fox hair is what it was.
Yeah.
And I just caught it in a stump that had a lot of grubs on it. And I saw it there and I pulled it out with tweezers, threw it in
like you said, that's the best thing to do. It's like, that's what I'd love to do. No matter what I find, no matter what kind of print.
Yep.
Try to document it and just try to learn from it, if anything.
Yep, exactly. How about how about that smell?
Yeah. Ugh. Now that has always been really bizarre to me. Definitely, if Chris is still watching, he should be tuned in. It's the first time I was out with him, this new area, and we were out there a couple times already, but this. I really can't really explain because we don't have smell-o-vision or anything on here, but the way I did, because it was so putrid, like death, it just reminded me of one time I was cooking chicken and I took the raw pieces that I needed to throw out, but I didn't really wrap them securely, and I put them in my dumpster outside, and it was out there for a couple days before garbage day, and I lifted to put something in there which would almost make you puke. It was so putrid, but it also had that the smell that we smelled, which also smelled like, it smelled like crap as well, and a swamp. It's so hard to say if there was really any must in it, but the biggest thing is the way it kind of overtook us, because there was no wind. Now I know there's wind current, but there was absolutely no wind, and we remember this, and just standing there, and it just engulfed us to where you wanted to throw up, and as easy as it came, it would go away. And then when you try to walk around to see if you could smell it somewhere else, because obviously you're in an uncontrolled environment, you got kills out there from whatever out in the woods, so you're like, if that's because you smell kill a mouse in your house in the wall, it smells for how long, how bad. So you imagine this would really smell bad, but you could never find the source of where it was. You move along, go again another couple hundred yards, then it engulfs you again, and then it's even stronger, and then it starts moving away from you, and you're trying to, and then all of a sudden it just disappears again. So again, did I see a Bigfoot by me doing what he does to smell? No. We didn't. It was just very odd. And I don't really have any logical explanation for it. And the thing is, it's happened with me 4 times, each with some different people. So it's like, I've always been the X factor, but there's always been different people that have smelled it in different areas. So,
well, that's the thing, it's not uncommon to come across a kill, especially you're out in the middle of the woods. That's nature, right? And but
Absolutely.
the thing is, when you do come across a kill somewhere, or just a dead animal for some reason, you're going to smell it when it hits you. You're like, oh, whoa,
Right.
okay, where's it at? Okay, there it is. And then as
The
you walk
wall.
away,
Yes. It goes
it's
away.
gone. Right. But when you're standing in the same spot and this rank odor that would gag a maggot comes by and hits you, and you're like, whoa, where's it at? There's nothing here,
Right. And then it just goes as quickly as
right.
So Raptor Casey says, until we get a Bigfoot making a nest on video or something, we have no proof of how they do anything. True. No, we have no proof of how they do anything anyway.
Exactly.
I have a working theory that if you want to know what a Bigfoot nest looks like, study your apes.
Yep.
Study your apes. What do they look like the most?
Well, it is true that you couldn't prove that was a Bigfoot nest unless you saw Bigfoot making it,
or a Bigfoot knock.
Yep. Yeah.
Or Steve, like you said, in my documentary, it was organic, but did we see what made the sound? No, we did not. So, like you were saying, it's a matter of trying to understand the different calls of the indigenous animals that would reside in my area.
Somebody made a great comment here. I totally think they're underground. The reason why I don't think they're underground is because evolutionary traits will show that as things go underground, they tend to get smaller. They tend to lose their vision, and they tend to become very prone to albinoism even. So they tend to lose their pigment, because the reason why animals have pigment is to protect themselves from sunlight. Yeah. So if they're underground and they continue to, after so many years, it becomes evolutionary, becomes ingrained into their DNA.
Now, what if they just bed underground, but live up and hunt and do whatever they do during the day, and then disappear, for the night?
I would say that's a lot of walking for a creature. Like, why haven't we ever, if they bed underground, why hasn't somebody stumbled upon their cave?
Yeah, I think they have. 100%.
Right. We haven't. So I doubt they're even cave dwellers. In fact, a lot of why don't chimpanzees and gorillas go into caves? Why? Because they're not so prevalent. You have to go miles to get a cave. Right. So when people give that blanket statement, I believe they're in a cave, or I believe they're underground. I believe there's some that may go underground. I believe there's some that go into a cave, but they don't all do that. They can't.
Yeah. See,
kind of like a Motel 6.
No, I always look at it that way too, is that if they're everywhere, let's just say, and I don't mean behind every tree, on how big they are, they would still have to leave some sort of trackway, you'd think. Right? I mean, a broken, like a game trail, unless they're just in trees. I don't know. Like I said, that's what I kind of look at is, if there was a big 4-foot broken path of something.
Now, for the chat, that's kind of like, understand, people are entitled to their beliefs. We haven't proved anything.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the logic that I believe this is, and based on science and based on reading and based on stuff that I've researched for the last gazillion years, it seems like.
Yeah.
I really think that, there may be some that, okay, I'm going to go to a cave, but like, what do you do with the Sasquatch that's in the middle of this place here, where there isn't a cave in 40 miles? You think it's going to come to this area every day and walk 40 miles back to the cave?
And that's what you were saying. That's that'd be like a lot of walking.
Yeah. It just goes to show that not every human lived in a cave or a Homo sapien. When we were back in our days, not everybody lived on the forest floor. Not everybody lived in a tree. We're primates. We kind of like, I'm going to be over here tonight.
Yep. Yeah.
And guess what? Primates aren't necessarily all nomadic either. So I have to remember that as well.
That's one of the things about Kentucky. I live in the Mammoth Cave region. And so because we do have some sightings around here, people kind of correlate that and they say, well, they must travel or live in caves. Well, I don't think they really do, but, I don't know. But, there seem to be other places in the world that maybe don't have caves or karst formations. So I think while it's
Wisconsin.
possible, right, it's possible that they could live there or stay there. I think it's more than likely a case of just convenience. They have a place they can stay for a day or two, then while they're moving around, different various areas. But,
Question there, Jay. Have you ever talked with First Nations of Wisconsin about them?
I have talked to, I would like to say one of them. One of them was an elder of the Ho-Chunk, which believed that they were what they called water spirits. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, now that again they're going to the spirit realm, where I'm like, wait a minute, no, we're talking about Bigfoot though. You know what I mean? It's flesh and blood. You're talking about water spirits, and they would just talk about it kind of being there and then not being there, but physically formed. And kind of in my area, it's kind of the Ho-Chunk territory, where they believe they have so many different other beliefs. It's almost like I wanted to incorporate it into this documentary, especially about the feathers. If you notice, there was one little clip in this film that I mentioned a feather. This is one of the, again, odd things. And just because we're out looking for Bigfoot, it's got to be related. But we would find a single feather and you'd out on the trail. All right, you'd say, what's the big deal, right? You're out in the woods, the bird's going to lose its feather. The feathers that we're always finding seem to be in the center. And as we're walking, it was like every 75 yards, another single feather in the middle of the path. Almost as like Hansel and Gretel leaving breadcrumbs. Now, I just thought that was weird. And when I did talk to, First Nation, they believe that they have a certain gift to leave for, there's like 12-step thing that I kind of read about them, which was really interesting. And I guess that kind of
program they've
I don't want to say 12-step program, but I found it interesting on how each one was, because it's kind of, that's the way I go out in the woods. Even before reading this, it's like, hey, you know what, whether Bigfoot's out here or not, I respect the woods. I'm walking into nature's home. If I see a creepy spider on the path or somewhere, I'm not going to kill it because I don't like it. I you know what I mean? I'm in nature's home, and I make sure that I don't break twigs as I move through things. I'm really careful about all that, but a lot of that had to do with these 12-step feathers. But anyway,
I'm Bob the Sasquatch, and I have a problem.
Yeah.
I tree knock all the time, and I can't seem to stop.
Hi, Bob. Yeah. Hi,
well,
Bob.
I don't bother nature while I'm out there, but I'm telling you though, if a poisonous snake comes along, that's where I draw the line. Okay.
Hey, snakes.
Chris, before
he's got to go.
That's fine. If it ticks on me, it's gonna go. It's gonna die.
Yeah.
If a mosquito's lodging itself feeding on me, he's gonna get whacked. I don't want to say I'm like a Buddhist monk to where nature.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of how I approach it. It's kind of like if I'm going out there and I'd love to make contact for what that's worth, just to be out there, then I'm going to go in as non-aggressive as I can.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach mine. I used to wood knock way in the beginning. I don't. I used to yell in the beginning. I don't. I used to gift in the beginning. I don't. And the thing is, other people could be doing that. That's great. I don't knock or judge or anything. I just say what I do is pretty much the human factor. I want to be out there being human, like Steve said in the documentary, where if we run into them, how do they react if we run into them or they run into us out there?
Right.
And it's never been like an aggressive towards you. It's just we don't understand the unknown. The one segment with me and Mary walking, whatever that was pacing us, because I heard it as we're walking through and I could hear the rainfall. I heard something walking up a steep kettle right next to us as we were going. When I finally stopped to do my little testimonial, because that's what I do out in the woods, document. And as I say that, boom, there, whatever it is right there.
Right.
Don't know what it is, but it definitely sounded bigger than a deer or anything like that, because it was
definitely, yes.
It was like keeping up with us. And here I am stopping. And as soon as you hear it, right, you're mighty Bigfoot hunter Jay. What are we going to do? Did you see my face?
Run!
My face, that was legit, because I could hear Mary. She's like, like, what is that? It's right there. And I'm just kind of like, and when she turned that off, I'm like, let's just be calm. And she's over there. That's the part I don't have in there. She's like, I don't care what you say, Jay. I'm making a pull for it right now. That's what she was saying to me, whispering to me. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to have her back. I'll be a wingman. I'm not going to be like Maverick to fly off and to stay and be there. But it was beyond the creepiest thing ever, because it's not like it just happened. Because if it just happened, I've spooked up a deer before. You could walk in the dark, right? You don't know they're right there because they think you're invisible. And then they jump up and oh, God, that was a deer. No, whatever this was pacing us that whole time up there. And that's the part that bothered me. I'm like, I think Mary said that after. She goes, it was the danger zone. We don't know what it was, but we were trapped. There was a steep kettle it was to my left, and a kettle going up to the right. There was no way to really run anywhere. The only way to go was, all right, we're going to go. And then we just got back to the car.
I think that's a smart thing to do too, Jay, because if you've got some sort of large animal or creature near you and you can't see what it is, well, you don't know what that is. That could be a mountain lion. It could be a bear. It could be something known, and it could be something unknown. But either way, you don't want it 5 feet away from you.
I know. I'm just like, that was my actual reaction when she's saying, I'm like, do you hear that? And it's crunching. And I'm like, oh. It was one of those, the pucker moments, I call it, where it's like, it's time to go.
And there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, I'm not. I've gotten over that. Yeah. I've tried to talk to a lot of people. In both of my documentaries, I don't have this one encounter, but it was with Chris Tipton, and we just get out there, and it was June, just got dark. And it just got done raining. We were walking out there, and you hear the rainfall coming off all the leaves, 360 degrees around you, and just, just rhythmic and everything. We're on a big 15-foot wide path, but a very steep kettle on each side. One of the 300-foot kettles on one side, 200-ish on the other side. And we're up there, and it's dark. And he brought his little club with. He goes, hey, do you mind if I knock? Because remember, I said I knocked, but I don't need more. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. He walks over to the edge of the kettle and finds a tree, and he's about 12 feet away from me. And he's like, wham, wham. And of course, you're trying to listen for a reply, right? Because that's what we're supposed to do. And it was dark enough where I couldn't see Chris, because that's how dark the canopy was and how dark it was in there. And I actually closed my eyes to focus. Even though it was dark, I closed my eyes to focus. And I'm hearing around me, the rain falls off the leaves just everywhere. And all of a sudden, right behind me to my right, and I'm not imagining it because I captured something on audio because it's the only thing I had on me. I hear a step right to my right behind me, right in the middle of me, and then one right off to my left. But it sounded like it was right behind me. Like, I couldn't judge exactly, but on how wide the path was, couldn't have been any more than 10 feet right behind me. And the feeling I got was, do you guys ever remember being kids and going upstairs from the basement? You turn the light off the basement, you're going up the stairs, and you have that feeling of something chasing you up the stairs? Or am I the only one? Sure. All right. So I always use that because it was that type of fear that overtook me. And I was a tree. Meaning I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't motion to Chris. Chris didn't have no idea what was even going on. And I felt like I was just like froze because I never heard it leave. That last step I heard was right behind me to my left. And I just felt like, what's going to happen? All those things kind of rush through your mind. And what felt like an eternity only turned out to be like a minute and 20 seconds. Because I remember something snapped me out of it and I walked right towards Chris. But being, I don't want to be aggressive and have a big spotlight on it. Don't ask me why, but I put my thumb on it. And of course, I walked towards Chris, turn around, put my thumb on it, nothing's there. So of course I'm like, all right, did I just imagine that? But later on, in the audio that I captured, I can hear what sounded like bipedal footsteps behind me. That's all I can say. But it's like, I'm not going to try to convince anybody of that. That was my own experience. I don't need to tell people hey, Jay could be a crackpot for all we know. He doesn't know anything. But that was, you were saying, Chris, when you were saying it, it's okay to be scared. I had a hard time with that one because I didn't go back out for a little over a month. I'm like, I'm done with this. I have no idea what this is. I felt like I could have died, left my wife and kids, and it just made me sad and depressed, and I didn't want to do it anymore.
It's kind of funny. Maybe someday you'll read about this. Wink, wink. The body has a certain reaction when things happen like that. It's called the flight or fight reaction. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of times, you don't know how you're going to react to you're in those circumstances. You felt this dire, imminent fear of the unknown or danger, and you reacted by getting out. That's what you do. People kind of chuckle because they've been here, and Chris can attest to this. I get a rock thrown at me, and what do? Laugh. I laugh. Right? Live on the air, last September, up at the state forest there, and something throws a rock at us, and I sit there and I laugh. And I forget who it was in the chat room said, yeah, if something throws a rock, and Kulls just sits there and laughs. You got to understand the reason why I have that fight instead of flight is because for years I was a firefighter and paramedic. So where people were running one way, I was running into the danger.
Right.
So to me, when danger hits, it's like, okay, it's just where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right. Most of the time, people have that opposite reaction. But what does that tell us? That tells us that if there's a particular situation where somebody is showing a flight or fight reaction, it shouldn't be fight and then a minute or 3 minutes or 10 minutes later turns into fright and books off.
Yeah.
And we hear that in certain Bigfoot sightings. The people, that they get this 10-second video, but then I got afraid and I ran. No, It doesn't happen that way.
Right.
Psychologically, you're either going to get, okay, what do you do? All right, let's get out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they're just going to say, all right, we're staying here until the very end. Yeah. That was Roger Patterson. That was Roger Patterson. Yeah. I want this thing. That's it. I'm going.
Yeah.
Right. That's why some of the videos that come out, I'm like, that makes no sense.
But that's what I'm saying. They always say, be careful what you wish for, right? I'm always wishing to do that, to make contact. I'm going to go out like Jane Goodall and do my hand signals and do the same thing I do in all my different areas over and over and over. One day it would be great for this primate to walk out and do the same thing to me. And I don't mean a force friendly giant, but something.
Now, here's the fun thing to think about, Jay. You're out in the woods with Steve and something throws a rock. Steve ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
In fact, Steve's going to handcuff Jay to Steve. So Jay doesn't go anywhere.
No, I mean, hey, listen. There's only one time, and this was not the fight or flight, but I was out with Linda Godfrey. That was my first documentary, where she's like, it's during the afternoon.
Hold on. Were you looking for Dogman?
No, we weren't.
Okay, good. Because if you were looking for Dogman and something growled at me, there's flight. I'm out.
No.
Not so much.
No, with this one is she's like, she's in her later 60s, and she goes up to a tree. And I'm actually recording her, and she's like trying to shake it like a gorilla, trying to shake the tree to get aggressive. Draw something in because it was such a nice afternoon day and out in the kettle. And then she goes, here, you try it. Now, she didn't record me doing this, which I wish she would have. But I found a different sapling, and it was like a young sapling, and I grabbed it I could put both, hands around it. And I was wearing my baseball cap, and I put my sunglasses on top of my baseball cap, and I start shaking this thing. But I start making this sound like a silverback gorilla, just, just going crazy and just hitting it like this. And I remember looking down a little bit because I wanted to make sure it was September. So I want to make sure nothing was going to hit my eyes or anything like that. There was nothing in it. It was, like I said, it was a young sapling. So nothing was falling from this thing. And it was only 12 feet high. So I'm shaking. My glasses fall off. I look down, and then I'm looking up a little bit more like this and still going. And all of a sudden I get this pain on the left side of my head, which is actually facing the woods, not Linda, who was on the path. So I kind of went off the path into the woods and doing this. So where this came from just the woods. And it was like the left side of my head right down here. So nothing that would have come down, it would have come from this way. Now, Linda said that could have been a rock. And I'm like, who's going to throw a rock? Again, this was early on with what I was doing. And I took my hat off, and sure enough, I had a lump, but it was on the left part of my head, and it was like raw to touch. So we're kind of looking, but the forest was so high that we couldn't find anything. Of course, you can come to a conclusion it was a rock because it left a bump, a Fred Flintstone bump on it. But I did take Linda, because I drove, and I took Linda home, and I was know her subdivision like the back of my hand, and I got lost on the way out, and I couldn't remember where I was going, which I didn't even think about it. But they're like, that could be a form of a small concussion. I don't know. But then it was that next week that you see in my film that the rocks are being thrown, and it's so funny because Sanjay, who I was with, was really impressed by it, because they all get whipped at us and they're landing by our feet, and I'm curious about it. But remember, I just got hit in the head with possibly a rock the week before. So he's like, oh, here it comes again. Kind of like Steve. That's what I'm thinking you would do. And like, here it comes again. And I actually like turn around and duck and move my head a little bit, because I'm like, getting hit in the head with a rock hurts. So, there is that fight or flight. There's times, like I said, I've been out there to where you hear something, but I feel like I could be in my own living room, totally comfortable. This could be at 11 o'clock at night, midnight or whatever, and it feels so comfortable. But I could be out there during the day, same areas where I just want to get the heck out of there because something doesn't feel right, So that's what I kind of go by. I go by the gut feel. But usually I don't run.
While you were out in these areas, can you ever recall having a discomfort with either one of your ears, or a fluttering sensation like?
Wow, that's weird, because I actually thought maybe that was like the biggest mosquito that went into my ear. All mosquitoes go into your ear. Mm-hmm. There was one time that one did my right ear, actually, and it just came from out of nowhere, and it was like just in my ear. And I remember I didn't see a bug or anything, but it scared the crap out of me, because you're just walking along and all of a sudden it's right there. So I didn't know what that was either. But yeah, no, so it's those different type of odd encounters out there. Again, how do I associate everything with Bigfoot? Just because it's the woods, I mean, I don't know but that's what I'm saying is I try to record everything I'm doing in Wisconsin, and I'm listening to what you guys come across in your necks of the woods,
Well, as far as that, what I call escorting.
Oh yeah.
Right. You got the escort.
Oh yeah.
Now I'll give you a little story of my own. Is years ago, maybe in 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. I myself and someone else, we I forget who it was that was with me, go walking down, this particular road. All this activity is going on. Not only were we getting paralleled by something on the left side, but also the right side.
Yeah.
And it walked all the way down. So we turned around, walked back, and came back with us. So I said, hey, I go up to my son. Want to go take a walk down the road? Yeah, take Spence with you. Off they go. They come back about 15 minutes later. Yeah, something was following us on both sides of the wood.
Nice.
Experienced the same thing. So yeah, there was a time when and that's happened to me before, but that was the first time I've actually had it on both sides, which was kind of interesting. I've had one on one side, and I remember that night it sounded like something was just going to pop out anytime. You could hear it getting really close to the edge of where the road was.
Right.
I was like, and then it stops. I'm like, oh my God.
It's not going to show itself.
And I remember that my heart was in my throat. It's going to show itself. And
you were excited, right? Excited.
Oh my God. The adrenaline rush was like,
this is it.
I could hardly breathe. I was like, here it comes. It's right there.
Yeah. Blake and I kind of experienced that a little bit on the way back. This was last fall, we were down there doing some of the range finding at that one area where we believe we caught a Sasquatch on thermal. But anyway, on our way back, we kept hearing something to our left. And we kept looking at it. We both would just be talking. We'd both look to our left. Both look to our... Finally, I think we stop. And I'm thinking maybe it's just we're kicking up squirrels or something, because it was during the afternoon. And they were just like running away. And then Blake was like just a couple of feet behind me. And I just kind of stopped and looked at me. He wanted to pick up the binoculars. We look off to the left where that sound was. And whatever it was the fastest moving critter. And I have no idea what it was. It was like, the only way I could explain it, it was like just like 2 feet, 3 feet off the path. And it was, you know, a good 15, 20 yards within a second. You know, it was weird. It was like, it just, and then you could hear it way, you know, far away. I'm like, what in the heck moves that fast? So again, you know, I have no idea what it was, but, you know, I just kind of keep rolling with it, really. Just document, right? That's all I can do.
Yep.
I could share it with you. And just like Chris was telling me, Jay, have you ever had a flutter in your ear?
Yep.
Wow. I never knew anybody else had a flutter. I
myself as well, too.
Have you
Chris
really?
was the first. Chris was the first. And the next thing you know, Chris, you're right. And it was followed by this terrible creeped out feeling.
Yeah.
And
yes.
I believe that is what getting hit with infrasound really feels like.
In your ear like that?
Well, understand the mechanics of infrasound causes vibrations in the eyes and in the ears. That's why people can see things, hear things, gives them that nauseous feeling, gets them the feelings of being watched, gives them that creeped out feelings.
Okay, that's also happened to me without the flutter. Is going up one of these kettles, like it was two years ago in January, and we were going up like 3 different kettles up, down, you know, in the snow. It was awesome. And the second kettle that I was going up, climbing up the side of the hill, we had to get around this one huge fallen oak, and we had to go around it through the brush to, you know, to get up. That's kind of where our trail was to get up. Mm-hmm. And Adam was with me, and he actually went through first. And he got up there. And as I started going through, I was right around the fallen down log with the brush kind of overhanging me like a canopy. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I felt like I had to puke. I mean, like it came over me, like, you know, that feeling like when you're sick, like you're about to throw up, just like that.
Right.
And actually I remember I said, like, Adam, just turn on your video. Cause I wanted to know if this was going to last, if I was going to throw up. You know, he's like, what do you want me to watch you puke? But as I came around underneath the canopy, as fast as it came, it went away. Like I had no signs of having a nauseous stomach. And that just struck me as weird. You know, you kind of know your body, right?
Right.
So.
Well, here's a question. Did you see the movie Paranormal Activity?
Yes.
Did you see it in the movie theaters or on TV?
Saw it on TV.
Now, why do you think that movie did so well in the movie theaters, where people were just creeped out and felt scared the crap out of them?
Because they're around everybody?
Because they buried infrasound every time. Remember that little noise you would hear every time the ghost, you would hear this.
Yes.
Right. That was actually infrasound. It doesn't pipe in through our television sets, but through some of the more sophisticated movie theater Dolby systems, it was pumping out this infrasound. Wow. And it was causing people to feel, oh my God, this is the creepiest thing I've ever watched.
So is that what you're saying? When I watched it at the theater, it was a lot more creepier than when I watched it when I bought the Blu-ray, watched it at home?
No. Chances are that it was probably just creepy the first time because you hadn't seen it before.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering if something else was just like, you know, more of that fear factor.
Oh yeah, this is the scene where the kid, you know, takes the kid's arm off. Yeah, we know that.
Yeah, that's true.
But you watch it the first time and you're like, oh,
yeah.
They definitely just did that to play with the audience, you know, and actually, you know, they did it for better reviews too, of course. But it was pretty clever.
A success plan that made people flock to that movie.
Yeah.
It didn't. That's why you watch some people that have seen it And I'm talking about the first one. Because I
Right.
thought the first one was brilliant.
It was.
Um,
Just like the first Blair Witch, I thought was.
I thought that was brilliant too. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, yeah." I thought that was brilliant. It was
Pretty cool.
It was, but yeah, so
No, so you were saying, so it's like I've had that throw up feeling, and I've had other people that I've been out with, same area actually, not the same kettle we were on, have the same thing. All of a sudden, feel like they're just going to throw up, and it just goes right through them to a where it might last just a couple minutes, and then they're fine. Right. So,
well, Jay, I had noticed back in 2010 when I was having a few exciting encounters. Prior to the encounter, I would get that sometimes, not every time, but sometimes prior, I would get that in the ear. And then when that happened, I would know, okay, start looking around. Something's going on. Check out the tree trunks. Look very closely. Does that tree trunk look kind of fat? Why does it look kind of fat? Stuff like that.
It is. I can't believe you asked me that question. That was actually on the cutting room floor for my first film when I'm explaining the flutter in my ear, and I thought that really didn't make sense, so I actually cut that out of my first film, so you don't see that in there. So you didn't really know this until you said it. So that's pretty cool.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Wow.
The conversation has gone.
Sorry, I'm stuck over on the chat room too. You guys are really.
Everyone's like, everyone's.
I know which mother Bigfoot carries her baby. I know what video he's talking about. That was the CGI one, probably, where it's going.
Which one?
Oh, there's one there. It's going.
Yeah.
Across that, it's obvious CGI.
Now I think there was one made. Who was it? Oh gosh. Never mind, it's gone.
I haven't really honestly seen a good Bigfoot show since Harry and the Hendersons, in my opinion. I'm just not, I don't know. These movies that come out, I mean, they always make it out to be just like this monster, the terror, and more Dogman-ish or something, or werewolf-ish.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I look at it, I know a lot of people are into that. Into the killing and slaying and horror and everything like that. I want to.
Well, you know what it is? It's become this culture now of how Bigfoot is violent.
Yeah.
And he'll snatch you up in the woods.
Yeah.
No. And studies will show, although there are some cultural differences, such as certain chimpanzees will attack monkeys.
Right.
Certain gorillas, even now, they're learning that will eat meat. Believe it or not.
Yeah. See, I don't fear that when I go out there. I mean, of course, what I fear is man. If I'm going to walk into somebody else out there, of course, running into a cougar or a bear or its cubs or whatever, right. That would be like my number one. I'm not worried about running into a Bigfoot or Dogman or any cryptid out there. It's just you're out in the woods, right? So I just don't want to brush up and get a tick on me. It's like
I'm worried about the ticks. You're worried about the ticks. Chris is worried about the snakes.
Yeah, I do. I load myself up with that permethrin, Sawyer's permethrin, on my clothes. Oh my god, that stuff's. I haven't had, knock on wood, I haven't had a tick since 2014 before I started using it. I live by it. I spray everything: shoes, socks, pants. Sure.
Back in 2010, I didn't have a whole lot of funds available, extra funds, that is, to go Bigfooting with for equipment and stuff. And I spent like $280 on a pair of snake boots because some of the areas I was going into, man, it was like, oh, wow, you could walk in there and have a rattlesnake hanging off each leg when you came back out if you weren't careful.
But do you see what we see? The thing is, from where Steve's location is, Chris, and mine, they're all different. You're right. If you invited me down, Chris, to go hiking down with you, I'd be like, absolutely. But I would take that precaution of saying what's out there that's potentially going to be dangerous or, poisonous or anything like that. Because if you're like, dude, go ahead, walk out with your hiking boots. See if you get bit by a rattler out there. See how you feel when you just step on them unexpectedly. So that's what I mean. I would take that heed before I'd go, just like Steve, if I came out by you and you're like, oh yeah, we got black bear around here all the time, you know. They're here by the dozen.
I think finding the trackway has it.
What's
If you want to see Bigfoot, go out in the woods and start talking politics to yourself in samurai chatter. A Bigfoot will quickly show up to argue with you.
Yeah, it's possible. No, I never ever speak politics in the woods.
Yeah. Jay said the only physical reaction I can remember is when I had my encounter. I couldn't swallow, like my mouth got completely dry for about 20 minutes. Yes, that's called shock. That's called shock. Yep. Things start to, when you go in, there is something called psychogenic shock, which mimics a lot of your physical shocks. There's numbers of different shocks. There's hypovolemic shock, which is loss of blood or fluids. Because if you get super dehydrated, you can go into hypovolemic shock, or if you lose a lot of blood, you go into hypovolemic shock. They have cardiogenic shock, which is if you have an issue with your heart, you go into a certain kind of shock. But then there's psychosomatic shock, which is where you see something so devastating, your body mimics that. Now it's your brain protecting it. So you end up losing, sensations to your body. Your skin your adrenaline hypes up a little bit. And you become, especially with an adrenaline dump, you become unable to do certain functions like swallowing. You lose your saliva in your mouth. You're in your fight mode, and that's kind of a shock way. It has to do a lot with a corticosteroid dump or adrenaline dump. So yeah,
this is good information. I wish I could read about that. No, it's like we were just talking. It's like, when we're all out there having different experiences. The one thing I was going to ask you guys, and I don't want to put you guys on the spot at all, because it's very easy to say, when we go down to Steve's 4 categories, the apers just will remain apers. Would you ever think about expanding that thought into something other than what you think it is? Just this is just kind of on the spot, just throwing it, because people have asked me that too, the same thing. They'll be like, "Do you think it's?"
Well, just fine. I talked about the Nephilim.
Yeah.
I decided to call that category the Holy Rollers.
No, come on, biblical Bigfoot's a lot better. Which is okay.
Well, I mean, you got apers, the woo, the Holy Rollers.
Yeah, I guess.
And the Ghostbusters.
What would you call the ETs then? Yeah, call them something fun.
Give me a minute.
I know. I'm trying to think. There's ET. That's all I can think of. There's nothing really fun about it. Or Mac and Me.
The ripoff of ET.
I know,
right?
The saucer something.
The
saucer squatchers.
There you go. Saucer squatchers. Yes, sir. That's it.
You got to coin those. You got to coin them. But I'm just saying they're really good. But that's what I'm saying, and that's kind of what I was talking to Ken about. Like I said, up in Michigan, just asking him, just straight up, just like, you're sold because he's feet on the ground, zoologist, looking at it just from the science point of it. But is there any point that you could ever, expand from that just to fancy the idea, if it's even a possibility, or is it strictly? No.
Are you saying you want me to come up with a 5th category?
No, not at all. Although I probably would be that 5th category. You call it the J Squatch.
I think everybody needs to have an open mind, and a lot of the times,
or it could be the kook squatch, and nobody's seeing nothing. Across the board.
I put my face next to it.
I kind of like Steve. I kind of like base what I think on what I've witnessed.
Right.
And if you see something, do something odd, like if somebody sees one, I've got a dog in the background. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
If somebody sees one, if I were to see one, disappear into a portal out of thin air, okay, then I might start accepting that that's a possibility because, hey, there it went.
Right.
Might start questioning my sanity, but
that's
try to figure out what you saw,
But no, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is it's kind of like, I don't think I limit myself. People could say,
right,
Jay's the holy roller, listening of the Nephilim, or the woo, but it's kind of like I kind of accept all the camps. That's just how I am right now because I really don't know, and I think that's where I'm kind of at, where you know what I mean? Because
I don't necessarily discount the descriptions in the Bible, because these things have been around for a long time. When you look at the Bible, it's been around for thousands of years, and that's basically, even if you take out the religious factor, it's a historical text. Right. So you're going to find a history book there, and sure enough, we find descriptions of hairy people, ape-like people, within a couple of 100 years before the United States was formed. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think it's anybody should be really surprised that I saw the description of a hairy person in the Bible.
Right.
I don't think that's really odd at all.
No. And like you said, it's also very historical, the historical text.
Yeah.
That we don't know. But I was just always curious about that, because I feel like honestly, this is how I feel when I first started doing this, because I was strictly flesh and blood primate. I really was. But I know that I'd be lying if I said I don't have the other possibilities open with me right now. I kind of feel like I'm the kook who kind of left the main camp. But the thing is,
see, I don't mean to interrupt, but see, I'm willing to accept people's beliefs. Like, okay, you believe it's that. Mm-hmm. I don't believe it's that way in certain aspects.
Right.
Like, for example, the woo folks. They all believe it's for certain reasons. I believe it all has a scientific explanation to it. Infrasound, other types of phenomena. Nephilim people, that's purely based on belief only. Never seen a shred of evidence or anybody say it's Nephilim because of this reason. Mm-hmm. Even the ET folks, the saucer squatchers, the saucer squatchers, they believe it because there's been a sighting associated with the Bigfoot and a UAP or UFO, whatever you want to call them, right? So there is some correlation there. Right. But the Nephilim folks have nothing. So that's the first one I can discount. This, again, I've talked about, so there's different reasons. I'm not going to go down my litany.
No, right.
But the Nephilim is probably the weakest argument of all, because there is no evidence to support any of it, other than the fact that somebody can interpret. And even I believe even in the program, your pastor says, if I'm interpreting this correctly.
You're correct, and you did catch him. I don't want to say catch him. He wanted to make sure that's how it had to come.
That's an interpretation,
right?
It's an interpretation, not necessarily this is a fact.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Just like when I'm speaking in it, I'm speaking from the heart, and whether I'm thinking about it, differently than what most people would, so be it. But I don't want to pretend to be one thing. It definitely sounds like I know what I'm doing on the other. I just kind of lay it out. This is what's going on. That's how come I wanted, why I wanted Ron on there, because I did read the Quantum Bigfoot. Definitely. I'm just saying, it's like, I loved it. But I've also read Ken's books, and David, and of course, Steve. We have a good friendship that we started back in 2016 when we met, and that's how come I like throwing little pieces of stuff towards you, because I know you're going to shoot right from the hip of saying, you're not going to just discount it, but you're going to look at it. You're going to say, boop, 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 boop. That's what it is. And whether it's not the answer I was looking for, at least I learned something from that. And that's how I looked at it. So honestly, the vocals I sent you, and the thermal, I didn't know if they were just going to be passed off like boom, boom, boom. But you really looked at them, and that really helped me out with our investigation on our end. And then we just leave it up to whatever it could have been.
Yep.
I firmly believe that the Nephilim explanation in the Bible is used to describe giants. Okay. There's also other interpretations that open for hairy people in the Bible. Not necessarily that they are combined with angel DNA and human DNA, but that may be their early explanation, and they've tried to come up with a way to explain why are these hairy people different from us. Very possible. Very possible.
Yeah, Ron's take on that is very interesting. It was, I thought it was going really well. And then he came out with that. And I was like,
yeah. Well, now we will find eventually find the DNA and they will encode it, uncode it, find out what it is. We're going to find a lot of stuff that will be in from the Denisovan DNA research that had been done years ago.
Yeah.
They found a piece of the DNA that contained a section of hominid that is unknown to them. I mean, it's not on file anywhere else.
Right.
There's one of our ancestors or relatives out there that we have never got a fossil from. And we don't have DNA from it. So yet to be found. And this very well could be, I don't know if Bigfoot's it, maybe part of it.
Yep.
But it's still out there.
Isn't this adventure fun?
It's
I mean,
fun.
it certainly is.
Just doing this because
Well,
I'm just saying it brings out the dialogue for me because listen, just listening to you, Steve and Chris, talk about your experiences, your knowledge is the same way when you were saying, Ron went a certain way. That could have been, a lot different from the Aper side, let's say. But at the same time, I'm listening to that the same way. It's like I absorb.
Yeah.
I absorb it, I guess.
He said a lot of stuff that made some sense.
Yeah. There's a lot like Ken said the same thing up in Michigan. He's like, oh yeah, Ron's a good guy. I really don't believe we don't agree on a lot of things, but he's a great guy. And I'm like, hey, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm actually really, people don't believe this, but I'm actually a skeptic. I'm from Missouri. Show me, I'm in Kentucky, but I feel a lot of kinship with the Missouri for the show me state. Okay. If you want me to believe something, or if I'm supposed to accept something, well, then show me. Now I've seen evidence of Bigfoot, but I've not seen evidence, that couldn't be explained of extraterrestrial. Now I've seen stuff in the sky that I couldn't explain, but that doesn't necessarily mean, oh my God, it's the Borg or we're under attack from alien species.
I like that. You got that little reference in there, the Borg. I like that.
Gentlemen, we have just under 3 minutes left for show.
Oh, wow.
Look how quick that goes when we're talking good stuff. And Jay, you said something earlier. You're absolutely right. When I start talking to folks like you and people where we're talking pure research stuff, God, that inspires me to go out and do more. That's the stuff. And it's never gotten dull after all these years I've been doing this.
Same. So, I always feel like there's a calling out there. So, hey,
next year is 25 years.
Wow. Hey, then I need your 25 years to come up, bring your lovely wife out here to Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
Make it
so let's get let's pitch our Blu-ray.
All right, ready?
Let me mute my barking dog.
Here we go. Order your Beyond the Kettle Finding J2 Blu-ray at www.jaybachochin.com. Anyway, that's where you can actually find that. I know everybody's
and if you order now,
yes,
you will get a free kiss.
No, wait. That's actually good. That's actually good because I say $20 for Beyond the Kettle or $10 for Finding Jay, the first one. But if you buy both of them together, it would be $25 plus shipping. That's it. I'm telling you.
If you order within the next 20 minutes, you get a free kiss from Jay.
I won't kill this baby seal. Used cars. But anyway, so it's on both on Amazon Prime and Vimeo. I have the hard copies, both professionally burned, high quality, excellent. Can't thank you enough, Steve, for not only for contributing to my film, because you really did a great job through the whole thing. You kept it grounded right where it needed, where I wanted it to be. So it wasn't all over, and for having me on tonight to talk about it. That's been great. For both you guys, thank you so much.
Hey, Jay, after the show, stick around. I got to say something really funny to you, but I don't want to give it away to the audience because we got to see it. But yeah, Jay, as always, it's great having you. With a great discussion. Great movie, by the way. And you know what? I will say this: Steve's Cliff Notes. Review of the film. There's some deep shit we're talking about in that film. So
that's awesome. That's all I have to take it. It's not it's not the Titanic. I'm no James Cameron, but there's some interesting, like you said, there's some deep stuff in there.
Yeah, there's really some deep stuff. But like I had to throw in that funny.
That's awesome.
But okay, folks, Chris, do your thing before we sign out of here.
Again, we want to thank Jay for being on. We appreciate having you, Jay. Always a pleasure. And we want to thank all of our listeners in the chat room and everybody's on the podcast. We appreciate all y'all. Love every one of you. Tickled to death to have you every week, and so honored by you being here. And if it's your first time watching us on YouTube, hey, hit the subscribe, smash that thumbs up button, give us a like.
Sharing is caring.
Sure is.
Yeah, share that podcast.
Bear down.
Dub Bears. Anyway, on behalf of me and everybody here at Squatch-D TV, we want to wish everybody a happy and safe, healthy week. You know, and of course, the things I say every week, God bless and keep on squatching. We'll catch you all here next week. SquatchdTV.com, right here on YouTube, 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday nights. We'll catch you all next week, folks. God bless.
Hey folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless and keep on squatching.